It's a when I say cloud, so cloud means what? Okay, I'm able to share now. Okay, so now this is my organization. Okay, maybe this is your laptop, right? And you want to set up one server. Okay, so set up one server. So what I'm doing here, I'm just having this server, and this server is on the cloud. So because we are talking about AWS, so consider this is AWS. Now your server, which we call the EC2 instance, Elastic Cloud Compute, right? EC2 instance. So that is a server, right? Server or maybe some machine you want to create as per your requirement. So now you have one machine or server, and you can deploy that application on this system. Then you can connect to this particular system via internet, right? Internet is required. It's not kind of a offline situation, right? If you want to connect to AWS Azure, you need the internet. Okay, so now you are connecting to this AWS machine that can be private. That AWS account is private, and you are having access to that private account, but you need the internet connection. So now the responsibility. See, there are a lot of responsibility which you are having when we are talking about maintaining the infrastructure. First thing, you need to manage the server, you need to manage the application, you need to manage, disaster recovery, you need to manage your databases. But as I mentioned in the beginning, it is not necessary that everything you will put it on the cloud-based system. Okay. At this moment, maybe if you are, very new to this cloud computing world, you might be thinking, okay, let's have everything on the cloud. So that's not a solution. Companies, they keep their data within their own organization. They want to keep their information on their own organization. For example, you are having a web application. So web application you can deploy here. Okay, because web application most of the time it is not holding any data. So you are having web application here, right? Now this web application is connecting to some database. So that database you can put it within your own organization. Okay, so backend will be on the on some of your server, right? Now this web application means you can create the databases on the AWS also. So there are NoSQL, DynamoDB. There is uh, you know RDS, which is the relation database service, where you can create the databases uh, for for your organization, like Oracle, MySQL, MS SQL Server, MariaDB. Right? That option is available. But most of the companies, what they do, they keep their data within their own premises, and and the application means the web application is deployed on the cloud. Now there are a lot of use cases. For example, if there if if there is a lot of traffic which comes to the web application, then you need to scale out your web application. Scale out means you need to create some more machines. So that responsibility you can give it to the cloud-based system. If your application is needs a load balancing, that responsibility you can give it to the AWS, because it is showing the data. Or for example, when you are submitting or updating the record, that data is ultimately gets stored under your on-premises database, right? So so that is the main purpose of cloud-based system. It is pay as you use, right? For example, you need system for 1 year, or maybe you need a system for 10 days. You need to pay for 10 days. You need not to worry that, oh, my server network cables are cut by the rats. You need not to worry. Everything will be taken care by the AWS. We need to do some settings, right? So, so in this webinar, we are basically talking about few services which is provided by AWS, right? So first we will talk about the EC2 instances. I'm already connected to my AWS account, right? So here you can see the services, right? So services like uh, we are having here compute service. In the compute service, we are having the EC2 instance. I put a star. So when you put a star, so basically what happens, you can see it over here, right? So on these icons will be visible on your dashboard. So or you can search directly from here. You can search EC2. If you don't know where is EC2, right? You just search it from here and you can just select this. So what is EC2? EC2 is basically these are the virtual machines. Okay, so if you want to create the virtual machines, then we are basically using the EC2 instances. EC2 instances are very useful. Means directly or indirectly, we are whenever we are doing some task which needs some storage, which needs some uh, you know uh, deploying an application. So we need the EC2 instances. So there are different use cases for this EC2 instances, right? There are different series are available, which basically as per the cost. For example, if I go to instances, right? And if I say launch instance, so here we can create one EC2 instance. When you are creating the EC2 instance, you are having different options like what not Docker is different. What Windows operating system or Ubuntu operating system, Mac operating system, which operating system you want to create for this virtual machines, right? So here, for example, you can create the Linux based. You need to just select, right? If you want to create Windows, then select Windows. And whenever you are creating the AWS account, it is free for 12 months. Free doesn't mean that everything is free, right? Free means whatever is titled with free tier eligible. So these services are free. For example, in EC2 instances, if I talk about, so you can see there are multiple images which are free of course. So I have selected Windows. So let me select uh, this AWS. See, this is free. Let me select Ubuntu. Right. So this is free tier eligible, but which is not free tier eligible. So you can see this Ubuntu, which is Ubuntu Server 20.04 LTS. LTS means long-term stable with SQL Server 2022 standard. So this is not free. Okay. So if you select this image, this is not free in the free tier account also. You have to pay. Right. So whenever you are selecting any service, you need to be very careful because it is chargeable. Because whenever you are creating the account, you are basically registering your credit or debit card with that. If you are registering with your credit or debit card, right? So AWS has full authority to cut the amount from your debit or credit card. Okay, so you need to use very carefully. How do you know means what is my bill, right? So you can search for the billing service. So if I say billing and cost information, let me open in a new tab. Right. So if I go over here, so you can see that let me close this. Right here, you can go to the bills. Right. So actually, this is a company's account. So there are a lot of training going on. That's why bill is high. But you can see here, there is some bill amount, right? So for which service, how much amount if you want more detail, you can just check what is the amount for that, right? So billing, you can check it out, right? Now, so you need to select the free tier eligible, these things only, right? Don't select other thing when you are in training, but when you are in a real time, once you become the solution architect, right? So then your company has company has some account for AWS, then you can use. But if you are a cloud-based solution architect, then it is your responsibility to save the money for your company, right? So, so you need to select the appropriate images or EC2 instances. So when I select this, so I'm selecting the free tier eligible, that is 22.04, say an example Ubuntu I'm selecting, right? And here, this is the architecture, right? So you want to use ARM based or you want to use 64-bit. So I'm selecting 64-bit or 86 is 32-bit operating system. Okay. Now here you can see the instance type. So instance type is nothing but what will be the infrastructure, how much RAM, how much CPU we are going to use for this. So here you can see T2 micro, this is free tier eligible. So if it is free tier eligible, so it means you can opt it in free tier limit. Means there will not be any charges when you are basically selecting this T2 micro for first 12 months, right? So, but if you select here, you can see this is the T is called series. T2 is the name, right? Family is T2. It has one CPU, 1 GB RAM. Okay, current generation true, and this is the charges for Linux 0.0116 USD per hour, right? So it means this is very less actually. If we count in Indian rupees, it's hardly 3 rupees per hour, right? But it doesn't mean that we need to unnecessarily use it. So because you need to make it a habit. So once you become the solution architect, right? So you need to be you need to use those habits that that there should not be unnecessary resources which are running in or services which are running in the AWS. Okay, so I'm selecting this T2 micro. Right. Now, next is the key pair. So key pair is basically a security mechanism. So with this, what we can do, we can connect to our AWS instances. So we are going to create AWS Linux-based system, right? So I have selected Ubuntu. Okay. So yeah, Ubuntu. So I want that there should be a way. For example, someone knows user ID and password, right? And there is something called public IP address. So if we are having a public IP address and this user ID and password, so it means that is little bit insecure. Means if someone knows, because this system is on internet, right? If you know my user ID and password and the IP address of the system, you are into that system, right? So that is why AWS provides one more level of security. That is with the this RSA keys. Okay, so there are different algorithm actually. So these keys are encrypted. You can create a new key by clicking on this, and here these are the algorithms for the encryption. So whatever you want to use. If you are using PuTTY, means especially in the case of the Linux, you can select PPK. If you are selecting the apart from PuTTY, you can go for the PEM. Okay. So I will be using MOBA Extreme, right? So MOBA Extreme is just, you can say, alternate for the PuTTY. It has more option to connect with the Linux-based system. So what you can do, you can give the name, right? Select RSA, select the key, private key, and just create the key pair. I have already created. So once you create a key, then you can use it for the multiple instances. Means, for example, if I create one more instance after that, so I can use the same key. Okay, so you need to download this key. So once you create that, PEM file is automatically get downloaded. Now, next is the network settings. So network is that how you are going to connect to this system. See, whenever you are connecting to a system, some ports are to be opened. For Linux, we need port number 22 for the SSH. Okay. So if I want to connect to my EC2 instance, then I will go with the port number 22. So here you can create a security group. So in AWS, we are using a security group. You can just click on edit. You can give the name of your security group, right? Here you can put the description. For example, if you want to connect the SSH, so here there are many types are given. So whichever is suitable for you, you can select that. For example, if I say SSH, HTTP, right? So it is saying it is for port number 22. If I say all traffic, then all the ports I am opening. So once you do that, then it will be saved with the name. So I have already created this security group with the name all traffic. Right. So, okay, it's not there. Okay, if it is not there, then I will create it. Okay, looks like it is not there. Okay, key was not deleted. Okay, so let me do one thing. Okay, I'll create a security group. The security group name, I will say all traffic. Okay, and description is required. So here also I will say all traffic. Okay, and here I will select all traffic anyway, right? And right. So if you want to add one more, you can put add one more, right? So because I have opened all the traffic, so that's why I'm not selecting this one. You can select this security group from here also. You can go to the security, network and security, go to security groups, right? So if I go here, so as of now, there is no security group. Okay, good. Next is the storage. How much hard disk space you want. So that is basically through the volumes, which we call the EBS volume. Okay. So we need a root volume where the operating system will be installed. Type is GB2. Okay. So these are the general purpose SSD drives. Right. In the free tier, eligible customer can go up to 30 GB. So I'm selecting 8 GB is enough, right? And how many EC2 instances you want to create? For example, I want to create one. Let's give some name also. So I will give a name, say, Unique Ubuntu. Yeah. Okay, so let's create the EC2 instance. Okay, so something goes wrong. Okay. Okay, so looks like this is not the correct region. Actually, these are the regions where we are having the VPC. So looks like someone has deleted the VPC. We need to create the VPC. That's a long process. Let's do one thing. Let's select some other region. So I'll select something called Stockholm. Right. So here, let me create it here quickly. I will say EC2 or Ubuntu demo, right? And here I will select Ubuntu 20.04 instance. I'll select here T2 micro is not here. So T3 micro is also free tier eligible. So I need to create a key pair. Let me create a key pair. I will say demo key pair, right? So I'm selecting this demo key pair, right? I'll say create. So what it will do, it will download that key, demo key. Now network, I'll select here. I will create here, add it. Okay, now see the VPC is here. So here there is no problem. So I will select all traffic. And description, I will say all traffic. Okay. And type, I will select all traffic, right? And 8 GB is fine, 1 is fine. Okay, so now I'm going to create my EC2 instance. Right. So now you can see EC2 demo, Ubuntu demo is created. Right. Now Right. So now what I'll do here, I will connect to this system. When you are creating the EC2 instances, there are two types of IP addresses which are attached. One is public. So I'm talking about IPv4, IP version 4. IPv6, also you can create that IP addresses, but at this moment I am not discussing. So here we will concentrate on IPv4 IP addresses. So here you can see this is the public IP address. So what is public IP address? By which you are connecting to the EC2 instances from your system, right? Private IP addresses, these are mainly used for intercommunication, means there are two servers. So these servers are basically getting created on the VPC, right? So if you have seen that in our North Virginia region, right, that VPC was deleted, right? There were no VPC. That's why I was not able to create the EC2 instance. So here, VPC is a separate concept which is called the virtual private cloud, right? So here, by default, there is a default VPC. So this, um, so these IP addresses are means this public IP address. This is the IP address which gets changed whenever you stop and start your EC2 instance because this is coming from some pool. Okay, so there is a pool from there. Dynamically, these IP addresses are assigned to your EC2 instances, right? But private IP address remains constant. Okay, it will never change until unless you terminate the EC2 instance. So now let us connect to our this public IP addresses. So I already have a MOBA Extreme installed. You can use PuTTY also, right? So I will connect to this system. So the username for Ubuntu is Ubuntu in small letter. And here you need to select the private key, the key which we have downloaded. So I will go to my downloads folder and right, click. So see, I'm able to connect to my EC2 instances. Similar way, means it depends that what type of server you want to create, right? So that type of server you can create. Here you can see T2 Micro, which has 2 CPU and 1 GB RAM. Now here if you see T2 Medium, it is 2 CPU and 4 GB RAM. If I say T3 Large, 2 CPU, 8 GB RAM, right? So it depends upon, for example, you are running big data, right? So maybe you at that time you need extra large 8 CPU and 16 GB RAM, that type of system, right? 16 CPU, 32 GB RAM, right? 9 times extra large, then 36 CPU, 72 GB, right? So it depends, right? So all type of systems are available, right? Here you can see 96 CPU and 192 GB RAM, right? So it totally depends that what type of uh, what type of server you want to select because this is a demo. So in demo, I have selected the 2 CPU and 1 GB RAM, and this is free tier eligible. So if you have the free tier account, then this T3 Micro you can select. What is regions? See, basically what happens, right? So let me see. Right. So see, basically what happens, AWS has lot of data centers, right? So for example, there is a data center in India. Okay, in India, uh, they have two regions. One region is Mumbai and other region is in Hyderabad. Okay, so there are two regions. So in the regions, there are uh, okay. So in the region, they are having their data centers. So these are the data centers. Data centers are nothing but these are uh, the place where the servers are available. And within a region is your geographical area. That is called region. So like that, there are many regions are available here. So if you create something in region 1, like here you can see if you are creating something in North Virginia region, then what will happen? That that's a separate region, right? That is North Virginia. So if your customer or those who wants to use this application, right, and you think that okay, it is for the US customer, right, then you can go for this US East one, which is the North Virginia region. If you think that it is for US West, then you can set up your servers in the um, West California, North California region. Similar way, if you think that your customers they are means in India or Asia Pacific, then you can go for the region like Hyderabad, Singapore, Hong Kong, right? So these regions. So that is the region. So within the region, we are having something called availability zones. So availability zones are nothing but it is a collection of data center. So minimum 2 availability zones in a region is required. So let me just open that PPT. Just a minute. Right. So so this is the logo of EC2 instances. So here we have the instance type, right? Like T3 micro we have selected. And we are having the AMI. AMI is nothing but Amazon machine image, like we have selected Ubuntu. Instance life cycle. See now, if you are not using your instance, so it will be a better idea that stop it. You can stop it. It means now this instance, once it is stopped, then it will basically uh, impact your billing, right? So what type of impact? If it is keep running, so it means your calculation for this particular EC2 instance is basically on. So you are basically going to stop this so that it will not count the number of hours when it is in the stop state. When you are stopping it, there will be nominal charges. But if you are keep it running, then the charges are more because you are using that EC2 instance. Once you stop it, right, then that counting is stopped. Okay. So right. So it's better. You can stop it. You can once it is stopped, if you want to start it, reboot it. You can use a hibernate option also, or you can terminate means if you want to terminate permanently. So so here, as I mentioned, there are a few things which because we have very less time, right? So in this webinar, it's difficult to practically show everything, but there are a few concepts which are basically related to this, which are basically related to the EC2 instances. So these are like we are having the VPC. VPC is a virtual private cloud. So you can consider uh, that if you are having multiple EC2 instances, right, and you want to set up a networking between them, then what you can do, you can go with the VPC is basically you can think something like there is a cloud. So this is a cloud. In the cloud, you are creating some network. Okay, so this is the network. So this network you have created for your client. So you can say this is the virtual private cloud, right? And with the help of this VPC, right? With the help of this VPC, what we can do, we can, with the help of this VPC, So whenever we are using this VPC, virtual private cloud, so what it is doing? On top of that, we are creating the EC2 instances. When you create the EC2 instances, we are creating the subnet. Okay, this is a network. VPC is a large network. And on this large network, it is something like that. We are having a large network, right? On this large network, we are having some small network, right? Which is called subnet. On this subnet, we are basically each subnet is indicating an availability zone. So in this subnet, we are having the data centers. And in the data center, we are having the servers where we create our EC2 instances. Okay, we can select our own choice subnet. Okay, or if you say that, okay, it's let AWS decide, that also we can do. All right. So next is the security group. Security group we have discussed. Right? Elastic IP addresses. See, public IP addresses are dynamic in nature. It means when you stop your EC2 instance, right? So then what will happen? The public IP addresses are basically get changed. But if you use the elastic IP address, so elastic IP addresses are the static IP addresses which are publicly available, but these are chargeable. Okay. So if you want, you can select the elastic IP address and you can see that option here. Elastic IP addresses. So that option is here. Elastic IPs. Okay. So you can create your elastic IP addresses and you can attach to the EC2 instances. Right. Subnet routing that I have already discussed means where you create your EC2 instances. Now let us talk about Lambda and Elastic Beanstalk. See, let me first talk about the Elastic Beanstalk. So Elastic Beanstalk is nothing but it is a platform as a service. What is platform as a service? Platform as a service is a concept where you are saying, okay, we are having our application and we don't know that what type of configuration is required. Let AWS has to decide. So what I'm saying, platform as a service. So for example, you are having one application. Now, what you do whenever you are having the application, you are basically deploying that application on some server. But now you are saying, I don't know where is that server, right? I just give it to the AWS and AWS will decide where this application is to be deployed. It means server selection will be done by the AWS. This is called platform as a service, right? And this approach is called serverless approach, right? So here we are not selecting the server. So server, its scale out, scale down, everything will be decided by the AWS. Okay, so it supports certain languages. So if I go to my search and if I search for the Beanstalk, Elastic Beanstalk, okay, so I'll go here, right? And here you can create the application, right? So what type of application we are creating? Web application. You can give some name. I'll give my app, okay, and okay, let everything is to be decided by AWS. Managed platform. So it is saying what type of application you want to deploy, like .NET, Docker, Go, Java, Node.js, right? Python. What type of application you want to deploy? So we'll select any one of this, say Node.js, okay? Or you can select Python also. You can select, .NET Core for Linux. You can select. So according to that, those options will be different, right? So like Python, this. So this is the platform version. But if you want to select something else, like here only this version 4.07. Now it is saying, do you have existing code? If you have existing code, you can upload that code here. Okay, you just means you can put that into S3 bucket, or you can select from your local system. Okay, so I'll select this. I will select this sample application. Okay, for this demo. Okay, so you want to select free tier, and there are different types of EC2 instances, right? So the one which we are selecting, that is called the on-demand instances. So I'm saying single instance as of now, free tier eligible. Next. Okay, so now configure the services key pair. So key pair, I will select the demo key. Okay, and rest of the thing is fine. Next. Okay. VPC will select, I think, which one we were using. Let me see. I think this is the one. Okay. Which availability zones? I'll select all. Okay. And database is not required. Actually, this is optional, but let's select this and click on next. Okay. So let's have this option again, as it is CloudWatch for monitoring our application every 5 minutes. Right. Security group, I will select all traffic. Right. Single instance. So on-demand instance I want to create, and click on next. Okay. So this is the health monitoring. I will keep these settings as it is. I just want to show you that how it works. Okay. So what it will do, it will create some environment. Right. So actually behind the scene, it is creating the EC2 instances only. Right. And that instance we can see also. So you can see now Beanstalk is launching the environment. And if I go to my EC2 instance, if I go to instances in the region, which is the Stockholm. Okay. So far there is one instance. Okay. So because it is creating at this moment. So you can see it is launching. So let's wait for this to create. Meanwhile, so anyone has any questions so far? You can unmute yourself, I believe, and so, or you can type the on the chat window, that is also available. Okay. So meanwhile, it is getting it is getting created. It takes 3-4 minutes to start up. Let's talk about one more topic, which is called Lambda. So Lambda is a serverless approach. Actually, Beanstalk is platform as a service, means we are giving, means AWS is giving a platform and we are giving the application code. So Lambda is also a serverless. Lambda is a serverless approach. So with the help of that, what you can do, you just give your code, and that code will be executed by the AWS. Behind the scene, AWS will decide, and it will, like in Beanstalk, you can see the EC2 instance which get created. But in Lambda, you will not see the EC2 instance because it is in the background, it is managed by the AWS. Okay, so let us see how to create that. So I will go to Lambda. Let me open in a new window, right? So here you can see that we can create the functions, right? So Lambda, first we need to go to the Lambda, right? And then you can go to the functions, okay? And you can create a functions. So these functions which I have created earlier, let me delete this. I'll say delete. So now here also I will take the sample code, right? So I will create a function. I'm creating a function from scratch. I will say this is Lambda function. Okay. So which language you want to use? I'll select Python again. Okay. And click on create function. Now this function is created, right? So it will have some code. So I'm taking the sample code, but you can replace that sample code with some your own code, right? Like your API code, microservice code, right? So here is the Lambda function which get created, which is saying hello from Lambda, right? Now this Lambda, so this code I want to execute. So if it is executed successfully, then it will return this message, hello from Lambda. But how this code will be triggered? Okay, how this code will be triggered? So we need to create a trigger point. So to add a trigger, I'm using the API gateway. API gateway is a service, right, which is basically used for the HTTP's REST API services, right? So here I will create a new service, right? I will create the REST API service, right? So here we are having the complete control on our request. So I'll select this one, right? So here you need to select the IAM security point of view, right? Because IAM roles, IAM, users groups where we create the users and provide the permissions, right? Click on add. Right. So this is my trigger point, means when this API server, so if you see here, this is API gateway is attached to my Lambda function. So whenever this API gateway is triggering that microservice or API, then my Lambda function will be executed. Let me go to this API function. In this API function, you can see there is something called any. Let us remove this any method. And I will create my own method. So here I will say create method. So I want to create a get method. Get method means I want to get a URL by which I can read. Get means read request. Okay, so this is created. Now here I want to use my Lambda function. What is my function name? That function name is the Lambda function name. And use Lambda proxy integration. Yes, I want to use this. Here you can see this I, right? So I means information. So it is giving you the information, right? Here, like here it is saying there is a Lambda function which will be integrated with the Lambda proxy integration, right? So now here Lambda function I'm using and I'll say save. You have to give the API gateway permission to invoke this. Okay. So right. So now this is basically a flow it is showing. And here it is showing that your request goes to the integration Lambda proxy. There is a Lambda function which get executed and you will get a response on your browser. Okay, so that looks fine. Now, what I will do here, I will deploy this method, right? So I will deploy this API. So there are some stages. So by default, there is a deploy stage, right? So now this deploy stage in the get method, I'm having this URL. So I will give this URL to my client so that they can access my API. So here now you can see hello from Lambda. So my Lambda method is called, Lambda function is called. How? With the API, right? With that URL. So now if I go here and if I go to my code, right? So this is hello Lambda from, if I say 1, 2, 3, let me save this, right? Let me deploy this. So I'm deploying this change. Now, if I go here, if I try to access, see, the changes are getting reflected here. How? Because I will change over there, but I will share one URL, right? So this is amazing, right? So, right. So this is how, means behind the scene, what server is used, what infrastructure is used, I don't know. This is totally serverless approach. Right, let's go to our, okay, our environment is ready. Now what it is saying, this environment is ready. And right, so right. So this environment is ready and this is the URL. Let's go to this URL. Okay, so yeah, so you see this is the sample code which Beanstalk has created for me. If you have your own code, then you will see that your application is displaying here. But here in the Beanstalk, because I use the sample code, this is the output of the sample code. So what you have done, you have just uploaded your code. After uploading your code, see, uh, you don't know means how it has created the EC2 instance. Let's go here and let's refresh this. So see, it has created one EC2 instance for you. Your application is basically deployed on this EC2 instance. Here you can see the EC2 instance. But in the case of Lambda, you don't know that where that EC2 instance is created, how it is created, right? That is totally hidden from you. Anyone has any question? All right, guys. So I think our uh, the time which is allotted. So this is the time, right? I hope you have enjoyed this session, right? If you have any question, you can unmute yourself and you can ask, or you can put it on the chat window. Yeah, Gaurav, go ahead if you have any question. Okay. Okay, then guys, I hope you have enjoyed this session, and this is just a demo, right? But the entire story will be in our course where we are talking about each and every AWS topic in detail. Okay, there are a lot of things which are basically they are like load balancer, S3 buckets, right? RDS, VPC, right? So there are many things, and when you are having your so course name, Murnal, can you put it on the chat window, that course name? Yes, you can change or update the service anytime, Gaurav, that's correct. So guys, you will get, yeah, this is the course name, AWS Cloud Computing. Here we are basically covering the AWS Solution Associate Architect uh, course, which is a certification actually in AWS, right? So after this course, you will feel yourself very comfortable in AWS. There are 200 plus services in AWS, but we are stick to that AWS Solution Architect course, right? That certification. So this training, the one which Murnal has mentioned, like AWS cloud computing. So after this training, you can take the exam for practitioner. You can take the exam for the AWS Solution Associate Architect. All right, guys. So then that's it. Thank you very much for joining. Uh, there is one more question. Oh no. Yes, introduction to AWS is also there. This includes syllabus for cloud computing. So yeah, that will be on our website, cognitia.com. You can go and you can see the syllabus over there. All right, guys. Then thank you very much for joining. Bye bye.